You can memorize the diagrams of all the gears. You can read the instruction manual cover to cover. You can even ace a written test on the physics of pedaling. And you could still completely crash your bicycle the exact second you merge into rush hour traffic.
Oh, absolutely. The textbook does not save you from a pothole.
Right. And we tend to treat leadership the exact same way. We sit in a classroom, take notes on, I don't know, the definitions of autocratic versus democratic styles.
Yeah.
And we just kind of assume that passing a multiple choice test magically turns us into leaders. But it really does.
Because the real test only begins when you get on the seat, start pedaling, and actually risk scraping your knees in traffic. And that leap, that jump from theoretical knowledge to messy real-world application, that is our focus today.
Yeah, and we have a really amazing deep dive for you today. We are looking at a fascinating syllabus from the University of Peradeniya. Specifically, it's a course called ESS 1006, Personality, Leadership, and Ethics.
And what's so cool about this curriculum is that it's built from the ground up to force students out of the textbook and into the street. It's highly practical.
Exactly. And for you listening, whether you're a student who's staring down this exact syllabus right now, or you're a professional trying to figure out why your corporate training seminars just aren't translating into actual team leadership, well, there's a blueprint here that applies to both.
There really is. The course materials outline this massive transformation. They call it a three-step philosophical journey. It moves from knowing, which is the classroom theory, to practicing.
Which is like the real-world action project, right?
Exactly, the action project.
Yeah.
And finally, the journey ends up becoming. That final stage, becoming, is the ultimate goal here. I mean, the university doesn't just want to churn out graduates who know how to manage a spreadsheet. They want to produce responsible, ethical leaders.
Yeah, they want people who actually change things. And the core of this course is something called a Smart Leadership Action Project. It's a mandatory assignment where these first-year students have to physically manifest their leadership skills on campus.
But, and this is a big but, if you look at the reality of being a first-year student, being told by a professor to just go out and solve a problem, I mean, that has to be incredibly paralyzing.
Oh, totally. Where does someone even start? I mean, if you don't have a problem, you don't have a project.
Right. And the materials draw heavily on a presentation by Dr. Surin Ladd. He's an academic researcher and higher education professional, and he gives students a very grounded starting point. He just tells them to observe.
Just look around, basically.
Yeah. He says, stop looking for a massive global crisis to solve. Instead, just walk through your own campus environment with your eyes open. Look at the immediate friction points, like what just isn't working right in front of you.
He gives some highly relatable examples of these campus service gaps, too. Things we just accept as normal inconveniences. Like, he mentions the lack of student community areas where people can actually sit down and connect.
Oh, yeah. Or how the scheduling of 8 a.m. classes causes so much morning congestion that it degrades both student health and the actual quality of learning.
Right, everybody's just stressed and tired.
Exactly. And he places a massive emphasis on sustainability and daily campus life. For instance, he challenges students to look at the waste management system. Are there recycling bins?
Or is the signage even clear enough that people use them correctly? Usually it's not.
No, usually it's just a guessing game. And he also brings up accessibility, like, are there missing wheelchair access points for students who actually need them?
I found the food example really striking, too. He talks about identifying an over-reliance on junk food in the campus canteens and then proposing a shift toward healthy vegetarian options, like fresh juices and locally sourced products. He specifically mentions buffalo yogurt, which is great.
Yeah, it grounds it in the local economy.
But, okay, here is my pushback on this. Isn't re-engineering a university's food supply chain or changing the administrative timetable for morning classes way above the pay grade of an 18 or 19-year-old? Like, how do they look at that mountain and not just completely give up?
That's a really fair point, and Dr. Surin actually addresses that intimidation factor directly. He clarifies that the university is not expecting a comprehensive, permanent solution to these massive systemic issues by the time midterms roll around.
Oh, okay, so what do they want then?
They are demanding a prototype, a pathway. You are just expected to carve out a tiny, manageable piece of that puzzle and take a tangible step toward bridging the gap.
Ah, I see. So with the food example, you aren't overhauling the entire dining hall system. You might just be organizing like a 2-week pop-up stall selling that local buffalo yogurt just to prove there is student demand for it.
Exactly. You are proving that change is possible, and this connects directly to the core values of the University of Peradeniya. In their materials, they have this graduate profile that's represented by a lotus flower motif. Right, I saw that. It's a really cool visual.
Yeah, and each petal of the lotus stands for a specific quality.
Yeah.
By finding these campus gaps and actually doing something about them, the students are trying to embody two specific petals. They are becoming a holistic thinker and problem solver and a socially intelligent and responsible human being.
Which all falls under their institutional motto, right? Leading self, serving society.
Yep, that's the link.
It's a beautiful intention. But, good intentions don't run a project. Once a student spots a gap, say they realize incoming students from rural areas lack basic digital literacy skills, how do they prevent their grand idea of teaching everyone computers from turning into just a chaotic, unorganized disaster?
Well, they need a framework to anchor that ambition. And the course mandates the SMART criteria. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
I really want to drill down into the measurable aspect of that, because in the corporate world, at least, this is where most ideas just die. You can't walk into a boardroom and tell investors, hey, we're going to make the office happier and greener. Oh, they will laugh you right out of the room.
Exactly. You need data to prove your impact.
And the university is acting as that strict boardroom here. The grading rubric is ruthless if you don't provide hard data. If a student group launches a green campus initiative, the measurable outcome cannot be, we handed out 100 flyers about recycling.
Right, because flyers don't actually mean anything changed.
Exactly. The measurable outcome must be something like tracking the exact volume of plastic waste they diverted from the landfill over a 3-week period.
Or like if they are running a peer support program to tackle student isolation, they have to log the number of active participants and track the outcomes of wellness check-ins.
Oh, yeah. And for that digital skills gap you mentioned, they'd need to show the actual pass rates or completion rates of the specific software modules they taught.
Okay, so that measurable data is really the foundation of the 5 core assessment criteria that the university uses to grade the final project.
It is.
Let's actually walk through those 5 because they are incredibly specific.
Yeah, let's do it. So the first is creativity. The grading committee wants to see a fresh approach, not just, a carbon copy of a previous year's project.
Right, you can't just recycle someone else's idea. What's the second one?
The second is utility. The project must solve a genuine documented need at Peradeniya. It can't just be an abstract academic exercise.
Makes sense. And the third is output, which circles back to our point about data, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need concrete evidence photos, survey results, spreadsheets, proving that you had a sustained impact.
Exactly. And the fourth is accountability, which I find fascinating. They are grading you on how you handled failure.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, did the project hit a wall? How did you pivot? Did you consider the ethical implications of your intervention?
It's so rare for a university to grade on failure. That's amazing.
And then the fifth criteria is responsibility. This asks how the project contributes to the greater good. Like, did it address social equity? Did it improve ecological sustainability?
Right. It's about measuring the long-term ripple effect of what the students build. Okay, so we have the observation of the gap, the rigid SMART structure, and the 5 core criteria. On paper, it sounds like a perfect recipe. But here is the reality check. You have to build this with other people.
Oh, yeah, the human element.
Exactly. Leadership is not a solo sport. It requires delegating, communicating, and just dealing with human friction.
And the curriculum recognizes that the human element is usually the hardest part. To manage it, they introduce a framework called the Social Change Model of Leadership Development, or the SCM.
The SEM.
Right. And the core philosophy of the SCM is that leadership is inherently collaborative and values-driven. They break this down into what they call the 7 C's, which are categorized across 3 different dimensions of human interaction.
Let's define these 7 C's in practical terms, starting with the first dimension, which is the individual. This includes consciousness of self, congruence, and commitment.
Right.
Now, consciousness of self sounds a bit like corporate jargon to me. What does that actually look like for a 19-year-old student?
Well, it is essentially radical self-awareness. It means knowing what you're good at, and maybe more importantly, what you are terrible at. Dr. Surin points this out clearly.
Like knowing your own limits.
Yeah. Like one student might be a fantastic researcher who can dig up all the facts on local yogurt suppliers, but they have terrible stage fright. While another student might be highly charismatic and great at recruiting volunteers, but they couldn't organize a spreadsheet to save their life.
So consciousness of self just means mapping those individual strengths honestly so the team can actually function.
Precisely.
And what about congruence? That sounds like a geometry term.
In this context, congruence means walking the talk. If your group's SMART project is about eliminating single-use plastics on campus,
No.
but you are showing up to team meetings drinking iced coffee out of a disposable plastic cup, you lack congruence.
Oh, that's a great example. So it is the strict alignment of your personal values with your outward actions. That makes total sense. So those individual traits, self-awareness, congruence, and commitment, they feed into the second dimension, which is the group. And the C's here are collaboration, common purpose, and controversy with civility.
And that last one, controversy with civility, is the hinge on which most group projects succeed or fail.
I really want to tie that directly to a very intense warning in the midterm instructions. The syllabus explicitly outlines how group grades work, and it is designed to punish the classic freeloader.
Oh, they do not mess around with that.
No, they don't. We all know the type, the coworker or classmate who vanishes for 3 weeks and then magically reappears to put their name on the final slide deck. The university rules state that if a student just slaps their name on a group project submission, their individual grade drops to 10%.
Which is essentially half credit.
Right. To get the full 20%, the deliverables must meticulously detail the specific individual roles, skills, and contributions of that specific member.
It is a brilliant pedagogical safeguard. The university is grading individual leadership development within a group setting, not just grading the final product. You literally cannot hide in the back of the room. You have to prove what you did.
But think about the tension that creates. I mean, if you have a group of 5 students and everyone knows their personal midterm grade depends on proving their individual output, the stakes are incredibly high.
Very high.
So what happens when someone genuinely isn't pulling their weight? This is where that concept of controversy with civility has to become more than just a catchphrase, right?
It becomes a survival skill. The SCM model acknowledges that controversy is guaranteed. I mean, people have clashing schedules, different working speeds, and just conflicting ideas on how to solve the problem.
Yeah, that's just human nature.
Right. And most people handle conflict either by screaming at each other or through, like, silent, toxic, passive aggression. Controversy with civility requires emotional intelligence. It means recognizing that differing viewpoints are necessary for a good project, but they absolutely must be navigated with respect.
So it's about how you fight, basically.
Yeah. If a team member is failing to deliver, an ethical leader doesn't attack their character. They address the behavior, uncover the barrier, and renegotiate the workflow.
You manage the friction so it produces light, instead of just burning the team down.
Love that phrasing, yes.
And if a team can actually navigate that, they reach the third dimension of the SCM, which is the societal level. This is represented by citizenship. It's the moment the project stops being a homework assignment and becomes an active contribution to the welfare of the community.
And that transition from the classroom to the community is the practicing phase. But once the project is finished, the students face the final hurdle.
Which is the grade.
Right.
Yeah.
They have to deliver the proof of what they've done to the grading committee. How do they translate all of this messy, real-world action into a final deliverable that hits the rubrics and proves they actually grew as a person?
This course uses something called the Universal Design for Learning, or the UDL framework. It's highly flexible. The university acknowledges that a traditional 10-page essay isn't always the best way to showcase leadership.
No, definitely not.
So students are allowed to submit video diaries, record podcasts, build mixed media presentations, or write reports.
The format is entirely open, but the academic standards are rigid. Dr. Cern strongly advises the students to log into their learning management system, the LMS, and study the grading rubrics before they create their deliverable.
Because the rubric defines exactly what separates a mediocre C grade from a first-class mark.
Exactly. A student has to map their creative output directly to those academic requirements. You can make a beautiful short film, but if it doesn't hit the specific criteria we discussed, it will just fail.
And one of the most inflexible requirements across every single format is reflection. The guidelines do not mince words here. Reflection is not optional. It is central to the grade.
Yes, but they don't want a generic paragraph at the end saying, "Oh, I had fun, my team was great, and I learned a lot about recycling." They require students to run their experience through 2 very specific analytical models.
Right. Let's get into those.
The first is Gibbs's reflective cycle. This model forces a deeply internal personal analysis. It asks the student to document their physiological reactions, their emotions, and their specific thoughts during moments of crisis in the project.
So it's very introspective.
Very. Like when the team was arguing over the budget, Did your heart race? Did you shut down? Did you get defensive? It focuses entirely on how you managed yourself in the moment.
Okay. And then the second model is the deal model of critical reflection. If Gibbs is internal, deal is external. It forces the student to examine the underlying systemic issues their project touched on.
Right.
It requires them to look at dynamics of power, privilege, and inequality, and to actively question the assumptions they had before the project even started.
To put those two models into perspective side by side?
Actually, I have an analogy for this. Tell me if this works. It seems like the Gibbs cycle is essentially looking in a mirror. You are staring at your own reflection, examining your heart rate, your frustration, your personal resilience.
Okay, I'm with you.
But the deal model is looking out a window. You are looking at how your actions shifted the broader societal landscape. And you are trying to understand the massive systemic currents you are swimming against.
The mirror and the window. That captures the dynamic perfectly. The student has to show the grading committee both views. And doing that requires immense cognitive effort. You have to synthesize your own emotions and societal mechanics.
Which is incredibly hard to do well.
It is, which leads directly into a profound warning Dr. Surin gives regarding the use of artificial intelligence in these deliverables.
Yeah, you can't talk about university assignments today without talking about AI. It is the elephant in every classroom.
He introduces a concept called cognitive offloading. If a student takes their raw data, feeds it into a generative AI model, and comps it to write a reflection using the Gibbs and Deal models, they are engaging in cognitive offloading.
So they're taking the heavy, difficult responsibility of critical thinking and just pushing it onto a machine.
Exactly.
I mean, using AI to structure an outline or brainstorm a catchy title for the project is one thing. But submitting an AI's generated reflection as your own personal growth, that is the antithesis of the course's goal.
Completely defeats the purpose.
If you let a large language model do the reflecting for you, you haven't moved from knowing to becoming. You've literally just outsourced your character development to a server farm.
The grading rubrics are explicitly looking for a developmental path. They want to see how the student plans to engage in continuous, lifelong ethical leadership. A machine cannot map your genuine internal emotional growth.
Right, because it didn't experience any of it.
Exactly. A machine doesn't feel the frustration of a teammate ghosting them, and it doesn't feel the pride of successfully implementing a campus initiative. That friction is the forge where leadership is actually created. If you bypass the friction, you bypass the learning.
This course is demanding a lot from these first-year students. It's intense.
It really is.
For anyone listening who is prepping for the ESS 1006 midterms, or honestly for any professional trying to structure a real-world initiative in their own workplace, let's distill this entire blueprint into a practical cheat sheet.
Let's do it. It begins with the gap. Look around your immediate environment. Don't try to boil the ocean. Find a specific, manageable problem like morning congestion, a lack of recycling bins, or an over-reliance on unhealthy food, and decide to act on it.
Next, build the structure. Filter your ambition through the SMART criteria. Make absolutely sure you have a plan to collect hard, measurable data to prove your impact and ensure your project hits the 5 core criteria: creativity, utility, output, accountability, and responsibility.
Then, manage the humans. Audit your team's individual strengths using the consciousness of self from the 7 C's. Remember that hiding in the group guarantees a failing grade.
Or at least a 10%, which is basically failing.
Right. You must document individual contributions, and you must use controversy with civility to keep the team from imploding when disagreements inevitably arise.
Finally, deliver the proof. Take advantage of the UDL framework to submit a podcast, a video, or a report that highlights your strengths, but map every piece of that deliverable to the LMS rubrics.
Yes, check the rubrics.
Use the Gibbs mirror to analyze your personal reactions, use the deal window to analyze the systemic impact, and whatever you do, do not offload that critical thinking to an AI.
It is an intentionally rigorous gauntlet. It is engineered to force a student to stop passively absorbing information and start actively taking responsibility for their environment.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for you to consider. The University of Peradeniya uses that lotus flower motif to represent the qualities of their graduates. The entire architecture of this SMART project is built around the idea of becoming a leader.
The final step of the journey.
Right. But what happens after the grade is published? Does that lotus flower just bloom once for a midterm assignment, secure a passing grade, and then wither away? Or does the framework you were forced to build, the way you observe gaps, the way you organize people, the way you reflect on your own failures, does that become a permanent lens for how you interact with the world? Because, the textbook can tell you how to pedal, but only you decide where to ride the bike.